Maybe first a few words, Wynn is the painter, I'm the sculptor. Maybe a few words about kindred spirits. The notion of kindred spirits is a very famous painting by Asher B. Durand called Kindred Spirits. Some of you are probably familiar with it. It's one of the signature pieces of the American Romantic period. The painting was done in 1849, and Asher B. Durand depicts two of his very close friends in the painting. One is Thomas Cole, who's a very famous painter, landscape painter, who was, I think, one of the teachers of Asher B. Durand, and the other one is William Cullen Bryant, who is a poet. All three of them were friends, okay? But the two gentlemen in the painting are standing on this overprop, this rock that kind of juts out over the, it's kind of like a cliff. And off in the distance is this beautiful landscape, the Hudson River, Hudson Valley. And there's a waterfall in the back, okay? It's sort of an imaginary reconstruction of Catterskill's Fall, which is I think about 100 miles north of here. But the point being is that it's called Kindred Spirits because all three of these men had a similar interest and vision about the beauty, the majesty of nature. So, Kindred Spirits are people who have similar sensibilities, similar interests, and Wynn and I think, are kind of fall into that category. We've known each other for 25 years. We were part of the founding members of the Piermont Flywheel Gallery. And over the years, we really have come to admire each other's work. And as I said, we are similarly inspired by the surrealists. I think you can see that very much in Wynn's paintings, maybe a little less so in mine. But we both are, I think, kind of enamored with the surrealistic vision, the idea of the magical world, the world of dreams. I know, well, you've all heard of Salvador Dali. Another painter you might know is Magritte. And Wynn's, I think, it's one of Wynn's favorite painters. Actually, Wynn has a painting over there in the corner called Up in Smoke, which is kind of an homage right to Magritte.
Yeah, it's a homage, and I put in one of his pipes, which nobody really smokes anymore. It's like, it's kind of a statement about him.
So, and one of the techniques that we often associate with the surrealists is this trompe-l'oeil, the fool the eye technique, and Wynn is really a master of that. I mean, and by the way, don't touch the paintings, okay? You can touch the sculpture, but I know you want to touch this and say, is that really a frame? Well, it's not really a frame. And he'll tell you more about this. These are not really frames. That's not really broken glass. This guy is not really popping off the canvas. All this is done through the magic of his technique. I have maybe one trompe-l'oeil type piece here. I guess the surrealist that I could more closely be associated with is Jean Arp. His sculpture is very fluid, kind of dreamlike, sensuous pieces. And so that explains a little bit about the shape of my work. Also, my background was in ceramics. And ceramic, we often think of clay as being a very soft kind of shapes. And so my first pieces in wood for many years were all these soft shapes, and then eventually I started to do things which are more angular. But I'll tell you more about that later if you're interested. So I'm going to let Wynn say a bit about his work.
Okay, about me. Okay, my goal is to fool you, like you, everybody here. And I'm a painting prankster, and I'm a trickster. And if you look at that painting over there of the clown, that's me. It's a self-portrait of a clown. Now, a clown is a master of illusion, and that is my goal. No matter what series I tackle, I paint in a trompe-l'oeil, surreal way, and I use optical illusions to create the effects that I want to. Now, as Carl was saying, this leads to problems because people want to touch my paintings. So I have to tell them not to, I have to yell at them. And for instance, I caught a well-dressed, now this guy should have known better. He was a well-dressed, well-known gallery dealer. I caught him scraping one of my paintings with his business card. And so I went over to him and said, "Why are you doing that?" He said, "Oh, I thought it was real. I want to see if it was real." So I'm always yelling at people, "Don't touch the paintings." I like to fool people, but I really like to fool animals. And The greatest compliment was paid to me by a bird. I was in my studio and I was doing a series of birch paintings, three-dimensional birch paintings, and the windows were open, it was spring, and it was a beautiful day, and in flew a bird, and flew around really fast like birds do, and it landed on my painting of my birch painting right on a branch, kind of looked at me and chirped, and then it flew away. And that was a great compliment. Another time, an insect, this is true, an insect, I was working on an anti-landscape painting, and the insect, which was a beautiful beetle, flew in, landed on the landscape. And it was perfect, and it just kind of sat there for a while, and then once it left, I decided to paint the image into the painting, which was another compliment from this beetle. My work tends not to fit into one category. As Carl was saying, it's trompe-l'oeil is one of the things which is full of the eye, but there's also photorealism, there's landscape art, there's optical art, there's Dada, there's pop art. And I used to be an abstract painter, but now I'm kind of walking on a tightrope. Like I'm on the edge where on one side I have illusionism, and on the other side I have abstractionism. I'm about to fall off one way or the other. Also, you can tell that I'm really into frames. See the frames and frames and the frames? Like this was due to an unfortunate collision with a very ugly specimen. What I mean is, some guy bought one of my paintings and I got to see it 6 months later, and he had framed it in this big, awful, dominant, heavy, ugly, disgusting frame. So I said, oh, that's it. So what I decided to do was just, in the future, take the future into my own hands and just paint whatever frame I wanted to be on the painting. And then it got out of hand. I was in the Metropolitan Museum of Art, and I saw all these gold frames. You know, sometimes I just look at frames, not what's in. I don't even look at the paintings anymore because I'm so into frames. And they were all gold, so I went back to my studio, and the painting I was working on, I decided to paint the frame gold and the landscape gold. The whole painting became gold. You can see that I'm very concerned about the environment. And my birch tree paintings I did because they were dying in a forest. I've done cracked landscapes, I've done broken landscapes. And in this show you can see some of the examples. Over there next to Carl's sculpture, there's an axe kind of slicing through a forest scene. This painting here is called I Told You Not to Shake the Bottle, and in that one, the landscape is being splattered, it's being destroyed. This one is called Salt, and Mother Nature is being vandalized in that one, and like global warming is like a sledgehammer. Now we get over here, this painting here is called Floater, and this is the landscape is in upheaval. It's like expanding and contracting. This one here is called Hey Dude, and it's my homage to the Teenage Mutant Ninja Turtles. Now they were spawned in toxic chemicals. So what I did was I took Raphael and I painted him into a natural environment, which is like a pristine swamp. In the end, I would think that I want the viewer, I want you guys to look at my paintings and see the world through a different lens, and maybe smile when you do it. That's about my whole rundown of what I do.
Is there any specific questions about any of the pieces, or how we do things, or?
Yeah, Lynn, these two are very different from what I've seen before. These are new ones for you, or older ones that I just haven't seen? very beautiful, this glassy quality.
What needed him?
And what's the question?
What do you do that? How do you do that? And is it like that so that people can touch it?
How do I do so they can touch it?
No, I said, how do you get that, the acrylic on it? Do you pour it or?
Yeah.
You do. How many coats is it? It just looks so luminous.
2.
Really?
Yeah,
It's
you can use
amazing.
resin.
It's resin?
No, you can use resin. You can get resin and it can be this thick. It can be really like a piece of glass if you want to do that.
It's just amazing.
I was trying to get it to look like, bubbles and
It looks like
underwater
water.
thing.
Yeah, yeah.
I usually
So
just
it's-
use it if I'm doing underwater things. I don't put it on the other stuff.
So do people touch that too? Do they try?
They better not. These are very delicate.
Yeah, it's very hard not to. Very
Yeah.
hard.
Well, Carl likes it if they touch his sculptures.
I'll try
That's
to
what he
take it
said.
out. I'll take it out on
As long as you're
Carl's
hinging
then.
on.
If I did his sculptures,
No
I
peanut
wouldn't
butter on
want,
your
I
hands.
wouldn't want anybody touching them, so.
Maybe I should say a little bit about themes in the show, because when we put it together, we were trying to group the work thematically. So, the piece on the end wall, Wynn's 2 pieces on the end wall, both deal with the environment. And my piece, the dark piece in the corner there, which looks like a piece of mahogany ingesting a piece of plastic,
Yeah.
is called What We Eat. Okay, and then this one over here is called, this one's called Child. This one is Extinct. Then there are themes which are sort of personal themes, and maybe I kind of loosely interpreted this because I was trying to group things together, but have to do with human vulnerability. Okay, so we sort of put these pieces together. They're about people we know. That's sort of another self-portrait, right?
Yeah.
Okay. This was about my mom. This is called Ria's Dream. And maybe you can see in the center of that was one of her favorite items, a vacuum cleaner. She spent a good part of her life vacuuming the house. We lived 2 blocks from the beach. It was like that legend of Sisyphus trying to push the thing up the hill. This piece is called Lenny's Shovel. And my dad always had an entrenching tool in his car. This is sort of a carryover from his days in the Army in World War II, where he used to dig foxholes. But in peacetime, he dug holes in the beach for the kids to sit in. And he also was into gardening. And then there's a couple of things in this show which are kind of predominantly shape-driven, form-driven. Okay, so this is sort of form-driven, and I don't know, am I fair to say those 2 pieces over there are form-driven? Although sometimes these things are metaphors for other things as well. So the hard kind of soft juxtaposition, something I've always been interested in, is sort of it's sort of a metaphor for man, for nature and man kind of intersecting, right? What's natural and what's technological. I had a whole series of pieces on this, and what inspired this series was one day I was hiking in Harriman Park, and I was at one of the crossroads of the Appalachian Trails, right behind Bear Mountain, and someone had nailed a wooden sign to a tree. They must have had a writing on the sign at one point in time that was long lost. The tree had started to grow around the sign, and the form just blew me away. Right? Mm-hmm. This architectonic sign, and then the soft tree kind of reclaiming itself. So those are kind of things that influenced some of those pieces. So, any other questions about anything?
I'm curious about the one with the fish and you in the corner. What metaphorically is that? Is that bombardment of your psyche?
Well, that's for you, the viewer, to figure out. I don't want to make your job easy.
That's what it seems like to me.
Good. It could be. I mean, that's a good interpretation.
It's an easier question than just read a book about Leonardo da Vinci, and he carried with him work for his entire life, and every couple of years he came back and another brush, another here. How do you know that you're done? or are you ever done with the picture?
It's done when it's done, but you can tell, you can't do anything more to it. And if you do start doing more things to it, it starts to get bad looking. Then you have to stop. You have to kind of like, it's like with a computer. You get to the point, you know, that you can delete what you just did. You have to do that, and then you have to stop. That helps.
Yeah, that's a discussion I always have with my students. I'd say, okay, if you have fewer things in your composition, okay, it's easier to look at. It has a potential greater impact, but the downsides could be boring. You could put lots of stuff in your work, it's very rich, but the downsides, it could be confusing. So I think artists always face this problem, you know, just how far do you take it? And I guess eventually you figure it out.
Carl, I love this new material you're using with the wood. Is it plastic or the clear?
Oh, the acrylic.
Yeah, so, and I know that you've used added dark woods, different
Yeah.
woods. So what are your thoughts on how you came to using the acrylic and how you feel it's different in when it's finished and you look at it? Like, how do you see it important to use acrylic as opposed to maybe wood?
Just pure wood.
Yeah.
Well, just like this piece, the juxtaposition of hard and soft, contrast in art is kind of a way to arrest attention. Okay, with contrast you run the risk of blowing a composition apart. But contrast is like a bump in the road. It's something that can wake you up. And it's also a challenge to take two disparate elements and kind of bring them together. So it's kind of a challenge. And it can also function metaphorically, like the plastic can be something that's machine-made and the wood is something that's natural. And those pieces over there, if you look at them, the pedestals, you know, kind of zigzaggy here. And again, I'm thinking about the pedestals themselves are an environment that the piece has to kind of conform to. And it's a challenge to take two very different pieces of material and try to get them to work together. So it's all those things.
Did you consider the shadows and reflections when you did them? Because that's so amazing, the transparency on the wall.
Oh, that was just luck. You mean with lighting?
Oh, no, I'm sure you thought about that.
No, I didn't. No, but yeah, well, lighting certainly helps. But shadow, of course, is very important in sculpture, and you know, you can get shadow by creating indentations. But if the wood is dark, you don't see those. So just like I'm sure, what is the hardest fruit to paint? What's the real dark?
Eggplant?
Eggplant. How do you paint an eggplant, right? Isn't it very hard to depict volume on an eggplant? Because it's all dark.
Oh,
You need
it's
light and dark to.
Crimson, purple, and blue.
Okay, well, you
generally.
should have painted, you know the answer to that. So in sculpture, if you use a lighter wood, it's more easy to see the shadows on it.
But that's just
'Cause
really
that's what-
intriguing because of like looking through glass. And
Yeah.
It makes me think of those old, like temple ruins with the trees and vegetation, you know, Tikal and Southeast Asia and stuff where plant life is growing over the existing architecture. That's what I think of when I'm looking at
Yeah, it's a similar kind of,
these. Yeah, it's like the
Thought.
nature and the man-made.
right, nature trying to reclaim its
It almost
territory.
feels like the man-made is nature by this time, but
Yeah.
Carl, this piece here is quite different from all the other pieces you do. It's a different style. What made this one different? Was it you were in a different mood, or you want to change what you normally do? But I could recognize all the other pieces as yours. This one, I wasn't sure it was yours.
Well, I did have a show here a number of years ago, and I had this, and there's two sister pieces in with it. So I had done this is called oak drape, and I had poplar drape, and I also had mahogany drape. So I work in series, just like Wynn did a whole series of masked paintings. So basically, the reason for putting this piece in was I wanted a match for this piece over here. So when we were composing the show, you know, I used little JPEGs on a format, and I'm moving these little JPEGs around, and I saw Wynn's Mask. Oh, there was another piece we were going to have here, and it was sold, I think.
Yeah.
So we put this one in, and I said, what will go with this? And I noticed the beacon here and the colors, and I said, this has got to have a beak in it. So part of that was just pairing those together.
Yeah, but you didn't really answer my question,
Sorry.
which was what inspired you to do this, which is so different from the style of what you normally do?
Okay, well, this is kind of a trompe l'oeil, in a way, right?
Right.
You know,
Yeah.
and so, you know, how to make something look like something else. And so I went through a period where I was doing a bunch of those things.
No, that's
And
the
it was
answer.
just a way to investigate that.
That's the answer
Okay.
I wasn't thinking of.
It's a beautiful show.
It
It's
a
beautifully
wonderful show.
curated, yeah.
You know, we worked about, it was a good 8 months in the works. Well, I guess,
Does number 8 have a title? When your number 8 painting.
Which one is 8?
The one with the oriental.
Oh, Hong Kong Goldfish #2.
Oh, okay.
And you're headed to Hong Kong soon.
Yeah, I'm headed to Hong Kong this
Oh,
week,
really?
this coming week. Yeah. That was inspired by my last trip to Hong Kong.
Well, thank you so much for sharing all that. That was really
Oh,
engaging.
thank you.
Thank you.
thanks for coming.
And you know, there's still more time and wine and cheese, so so feel free to hang out. Thanks so much.